I don't pay people to cry, I pay them to clean. If he wanted respect, he should have gone to business school instead of picking up a mop for 30 years.
I don't pay people to cry. I pay them to clean. If he wanted respect, he should have gone to business school instead of picking up a mop for 30 years. The words hang in the air like toxic smoke. The entire courtroom freezes. Every pair of eyes shifts to the man who just spoke with such casual cruelty. His name is Sterling Vance, age 45, CEO of Vance Global Technologies. He stands at the defendant's table, looking less like a man on trial and more like a king holding court. His appearance screams power. He wears a bespoke charcoal suit, cut sharp to fit his frame, likely a Brioni, costing upwards of $8,000. On his wrist sits a Richard Mille watch, a complex machine of gears and sapphire glass worth $250,000. He checks it impatiently, as if justice is merely an inconvenience to his schedule. His shoes are polished to a mirror shine, reflecting the fluorescent lights above. On his finger, a platinum signet ring gleams. He doesn't look at the man he just insulted. He looks through him. High behind the bench sits Judge Boyd. Unlike other judges who might show immediate anger, Boyd is terrifyingly still. His face is a mask of stone, but his eyes, sharp, analytical, and cold as steel, are locked onto Vance. Judge Boyd is known for his brutal justice, a style that strips away pretenses and exposes the raw truth. He has seen liars, thieves, and murderers, but the arrogance standing before him today is a different breed of evil. Sitting across from the CEO is the plaintiff, Elias Thorne. Elias is 63 years old, but he looks 80. His back is permanently stooped from decades of bending over trash cans and scrubbing floors. He wears a faded gray sweater that has been darned at the elbows, and trousers that are slightly too short. His hands, resting on the table, are a map of hard labor, calloused, scarred, with knuckles swollen from arthritis. Elias is crying. Not loud, sobbing tears, but the quiet, shameful tears of a man who has been stripped of his dignity in public. He holds a crumpled tissue in one hand, trying to wipe his eyes without drawing attention. He worked for Sterling Vance's company for 28 years. He was the first one in the building at 5 a.m. and the last one out at 9 p.m. He knows the names of everyone's children, even though no one knows his. The case number is 4092 Civil B. On paper, it looks ridiculous. Sterling Vance is countersuing his former janitor for destruction of company property and defamation. The amount? $50,000. Why? Because Elias, in a moment of exhaustion, while working a double shift to pay for his wife's chemotherapy, accidentally spilled a bucket of mop water on an antique Persian rug in Vance's executive suite. Vance fired him on the spot. No severance, no pension, no goodbye. And when Elias begged for his unpaid overtime to buy medicine, Vance sued him for the cost of the rug. Judge Boyd shifts in his chair. The leather creaks, a sound that echoes like a thunderclap in the silent room. He picks up the file, his eyes scanning the photos of the stained rug, and then the photos of Elias's bank account, which currently shows a balance of $12.40. Mr. Vance, Judge Boyd's voice breaks the silence. It is deep, resonant, and devoid of warmth. You are suing this man for $50,000 because of water? Vance smirks, adjusting his silk tie. It wasn't just water, Your Honor. It was negligence. That rug was an 18th century antique. It set the tone for my office. His clumsiness ruined an asset. In the corporate world, when you break something, you pay for it. That's how accountability works. Accountability, Boyd repeats the word slowly, tasting it. Interesting choice of words. Boyd looks down at Elias. The janitor is trembling now. He knows he can't pay. He knows if he loses everything, his small apartment, his wife's treatment, his life. Mr. Thorne, Judge Boyd says, his tone shifting slightly, though still unreadable. Is it true? Did you spill the water? Elias tries to stand, his knees shaking. Yes, Your Honor. I was dizzy. I hadn't eaten since the day before because I needed to save for the bus fare. I tripped. I tried to clean it up with my own shirt, sir. I tried. Vance laughs, a short, derisive sound. See, he admits it. Open and shut case. Can we wrap this up? I have a board meeting at 2. Judge Boyd's eyes narrow. The temperature in the room seems to drop 10 degrees. He slowly closes the file and interlaces his fingers. A board meeting, Boyd says softly. Well, cancel it, because you're not going anywhere. Excuse me? Sterling Vance blinks, his expression shifting from boredom to genuine confusion. He is not used to being told what to do. In his world, he gives the orders, and others obey. He looks at his lawyer, a sharp-faced man named Mr. Sterling, no relation, just expensive, expecting an objection. But the lawyer sits frozen, his pen hovering over his legal pad. He knows, even if his client doesn't, that you do not argue with Judge Boyd when he uses that tone. Judge Boyd ignores the CEO's indignation. He reaches for a second file, a thinner, worn-looking folder that contains Elias Thorne's employment history. He opens it slowly, the rustle of paper sounding impossibly loud in the quiet room. Mr. Vance, Boyd begins, his eyes still fixed on the documents. You stated earlier that you demand accountability. You said that in the corporate world, when you break something, you pay for it. Is that your philosophy? Absolutely, Vance replies, straightening his tie. It's the foundation of capitalism, efficiency, responsibility. If a gear in the machine is defective, you replace it. If an employee damages an asset, they are liable. It's not personal, Your Honor. It's business. Business, Boyd repeats. He looks up. Let's talk about your business. You've been CEO of Vance Global for 5 years. Before that, you were a hedge fund manager. Is that correct? Vance nods. I turned the company around. Tripled the stock value. Judge Boyd points a finger at Elias, who is still dabbing his eyes with the tissue. And Mr. Thorne here has been scrubbing the floors of that building for 28 years. He was cleaning those hallways before you even graduated high school. He was waxing the lobby floors while you were learning how to tie a Windsor knot. Tell me, Mr. Vance, in those 5 years you've walked past him every single day, did you ever once ask him his name? Vance scoffs, a look of incredulity crossing his face. Your Honor, I employ 4,000 people. I don't have the bandwidth to memorize the names of every janitor, security guard, and cafeteria worker. His name is on his uniform, isn't it? That's sufficient. Judge Boyd's expression doesn't change, but the air in the room grows heavier. So, to you, he isn't a person. He's a function, a mop handle with a heartbeat. He is an employee who failed to perform his duties, Vance corrects sharply. He destroyed property. That rug was an antique silk Harris. It is irreplaceable. Let's discuss that day, Boyd says, turning his attention to the trembling man at the plaintiff's table. Mr. Thorne, why were you working a double shift? Mr. Vance said you were negligent, but negligence implies you didn't care. Were you careless, Mr. Thorne? Elias shakes his head vigorously, his voice cracking. No, sir. Never. I loved that building. I took pride in it. But my wife, Martha, she has stage 4 lymphoma. Our insurance. Mr. Vance changed the company insurance plan last year. It doesn't cover the new chemo drugs anymore. Elias pauses, taking a ragged breath. The copay went up to $600 a month. I didn't have it. My supervisor said if I worked a double shift 3 days in a row, I'd get overtime. I hadn't slept in 40 hours, Your Honor. My legs, they just gave out. When the bucket tipped, I didn't care about my shirt or my hands. I threw myself on the rug to soak it up. I begged Mr. Vance. I told him I'd clean it for free for the rest of my life. And what did you say, Mr. Vance? Boyd asks, his voice deceptively soft. Vance sighs, checking his watch again. I told him that his shirt was dirty, and he was making it worse. I fired him because he was a liability. A tired worker is a dangerous worker. I was protecting the company. And frankly, Your Honor, his personal financial issues are not my concern. If he couldn't afford the medication, perhaps he should have managed his finances better over 30 years. The courtroom gasps. A woman in the gallery whispers, Monster. Judge Boyd slowly takes off his glasses. He places them on the bench. He leans forward, resting his chin on his clasped hands. You changed the insurance plan, Boyd states. To save money? To streamline operations, Vance corrects. We saved the company $2 million a quarter. $2 million, Boyd nods. And Mr. Thorne needed $200 to keep his wife alive, so he worked until his body collapsed. And when he fell, destroying a rug you claim is worth $50,000, your first instinct wasn't to help the old man on the floor. It was to calculate the cost of the wool he was bleeding on. Vance looks annoyed. You're making this emotional, Judge. It's a property dispute. He broke it. He bought it. That's the law. Judge Boyd stares at him for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then, a small, cold smile touches his lips. It was the smile of a predator who has just trapped its prey. You like the law, Mr. Vance? You like strict adherence to rules and accountability? Yes, Vance replies, narrowing his eyes. Good, Judge Boyd says, opening a third file, a thick black binder that no one had noticed until now. Because I did a little digging into Vance Global's efficiency policies. And Mr. Vance, you are not going to like what I found. What is that? Vance asks, his voice losing a fraction of its arrogance. He cranes his neck, trying to see the papers inside the black binder. This, Judge Boyd says, tapping the cover with a single finger, is an independent audit. You see, Mr. Vance, when a lawsuit of this magnitude enters my courtroom, $50,000 against a minimum wage worker, I don't just read the plaintiff's complaint. I investigate the validity of the claim. Boyd flips the binder open. He pulls out a glossy photograph of the stained rug, followed by a document with a heavy official seal. You stated under oath and in your lawsuit that the damaged item was an authentic 18th century silk Harris rug, valued at $50,000. You called it an irreplaceable asset. Is that still your testimony? Vance hesitates for a split second, glancing at his lawyer, who is now sweating profusely. Yes, I bought it from a dealer in Istanbul. It is a masterpiece. A masterpiece, Boyd repeats flatly. He holds up the document. This is an appraisal report from the International Textile Association. I had a court-appointed expert examine the rug yesterday. Do you know what they found, Mr. Vance? Vance says nothing. His jaw tightens. They found polyester, Boyd says, his voice cutting like a whip. Synthetic dyes. Machine stitching on the reverse side. This isn't an 18th century antique. It is a high-end reproduction manufactured in a factory in New Jersey 3 years ago. Retail price, $1,200. The courtroom erupts in murmurs. Elias looks up, his eyes wide with shock. He had been ready to sell his soul to pay for a treasure, only to find out it was a lie. Boyd slams the appraisal down. You filed a sworn affidavit claiming $50,000 in damages for a rug that costs less than the shoes you are wearing right now. That is perjury, Mr. Vance. That is insurance fraud. And that is a malicious attempt to destroy a man's life over a piece of decoration. It was a gift, Vance stammers, his face flushing a deep, angry red. I was told it was real. If I was defrauded, that's not my fault. Ignorance is not a defense for extortion, Boyd counters. But let's move past the rug, because the rug is just the symptom. The disease is in this binder. Boyd turns the page. The sound is sharp, decisive. You mentioned earlier that you cut the company insurance plan to save $2 million. You called it efficiency. You said it was to streamline operations. It was necessary, Vance insists, regaining some of his composure. The market was volatile. We had to tighten our belts. Tighten belts, Boyd muses. He looks at a spreadsheet. I'm looking at your executive compensation package for the same year you cut the insurance. The year Mr. Thorne's wife lost her coverage for chemotherapy. Boyd looks directly into the camera, breaking the fourth wall for a moment, before turning his gaze back to the CEO. In the same quarter, you saved $2 million by cutting healthcare for your janitors. You approved a quarterly performance bonus for yourself. Do you want to tell the court how much that bonus was? It's private corporate data, Vance snaps. It's public record in a lawsuit, Boyd corrects. $4 million. The silence in the room is deafening. Even the court reporter stops typing for a second. You cut the lifeline for hundreds of families to fund a bonus that you spent on, what? Cars? Watches? Fake rugs? You took the money that would have paid for Martha Thorne's medicine and put it in your pocket. And then, when her husband collapsed from exhaustion trying to make up the difference, you fired him. That is capitalism, Vance shouts, slamming his hand on the table. It is not illegal to make a profit. I built that company. I deserve that money. This man is a nobody. He is replaceable. Judge Boyd stands up. It is a rare movement, and it makes him look like a giant looming over the bench. A nobody? Boyd asks, his voice dropping to a terrifying whisper. Mr. Thorne, please stand up. Elias stands slowly, clutching his hat. Look at his hands, Mr. Vance, Boyd commands. Look at them. Vance refuses to look. Those hands cleaned your toilet, Boyd says, his voice rising with controlled fury. Those hands emptied your trash. Those hands polished the desk where you signed the papers that took away his wife's hope. He gave you 28 years of his life. He gave you his health. He gave you his dignity. And you stand there in a suit that costs more than his car and call him a nobody? Boyd sits back down, his eyes dark. You say you like accountability, Mr. Vance. You say when you break something, you pay for it. Well, you have broken something far more valuable than a rug. You have broken the social contract. You have broken the trust of the people who built your empire. And today, I am going to make sure you pay for it. Your Honor, Vance's lawyer finally speaks, his voice trembling. My client moves to dismiss the countersuit. We will drop the claim for the $50,000. We will walk away. Boyd laughs. It is a dry, humorless sound. Dismiss? Walk away? Oh no, we are long past that. You don't get to fire a gun at a man and then say, oops, when you miss. The countersuit stays. But now, I am adding a few things to the docket. Boyd picks up a pen. Mr. Thorne, did you know that under state labor laws, working a double shift without a mandatory 8-hour break is a violation? Did you know that firing an employee for a medical emergency caused by workplace exhaustion is grounds for a wrongful termination suit? Elias shakes his head. No, sir. I didn't know. I didn't think so, Boyd says, looking at Vance. Because Mr. Vance didn't want you to know, but the court knows. And Mr. Vance, I'm just getting started. Mr. Sterling, the lawyer, tries to intervene. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. We came here for a property damage claim. You cannot turn this into a labor dispute tribunal on the fly. We are not prepared for this. I am, Judge Boyd says, cutting him off without looking up. In my courtroom, when evidence of gross misconduct appears, I have the authority to amend the scope of the judgment. It's called the doctrine of unclean hands. And your client's hands are filthy. Boyd motions to the bailiff. Dim the lights. Play Exhibit C. Vance looks confused. Exhibit C? I didn't submit an Exhibit C. No, Boyd says. Mr. Thorne's public defender did. It's the security footage from your executive suite on the night of the incident. You claimed Mr. Thorne was negligent. You claimed he was clumsy and reckless. Let's see what the camera saw. A large monitor on the wall flickers to life. The grain is slightly fuzzy, but the image is clear. It shows the opulent office of Sterling Vance. It is late at night. The digital clock in the corner of the screen reads 11:40 p.m. Enter Elias Thorne. On the screen, the old man looks even smaller than he does in court. He is pushing a heavy mop bucket. He is moving slowly, holding onto the wall for support. His legs are shaking. He stops, wipes his forehead, and takes a deep breath. He looks like a man running a marathon with broken feet. He dips the mop. He takes one step, and then his legs simply fold. It isn't a slip. It isn't a trip. It is a total physical collapse. He hits the floor hard. The bucket overturns. Dark water spills across the rug. Elias doesn't move. He lays there, face down, for a long, terrifying minute. In the courtroom, Elias covers his face with his hands, unable to watch his own humiliation. Then, on the screen, the door opens. Sterling Vance walks in. He is wearing a tuxedo, clearly returning from a gala or a party. He stops. He looks at the water spreading on the rug. He looks at the man lying face down in the puddle, and then he does the unthinkable. On the screen, Vance doesn't kneel. He doesn't check for a pulse. He doesn't call 911. He steps over Elias's legs to get to his desk. He picks up the phone. The audio from the security tape plays in the courtroom. It is Vance's voice, crisp and annoyed. Security, send someone up to my office. The night janitor made a mess. Get him out of here. And call the carpet cleaners. Immediately. The video ends. The screen goes black. The silence in the courtroom is heavy, thick with shock and disgust. Judge Boyd stares at the blank screen for a moment before turning his gaze to Vance. You stepped over him, Boyd says. His voice is barely a whisper, but it carries the weight of a judgment day. A man who served your company for 28 years lay unconscious at your feet. You didn't know if he was having a heart attack. You didn't know if he was dead. You didn't care. You were worried about the rug. Vance shifts uncomfortably, pulling at his collar. The air conditioning seems to have stopped working for him. Your Honor, I am not a doctor. I called security. That is the protocol. They are trained in first aid. I removed myself from the situation to let professionals handle it. You stepped over him, Boyd repeats, louder this time. You treated him like a piece of trash that had fallen out of the bin. That isn't protocol, Mr. Vance. That is a lack of soul. Boyd opens the thick black binder again. You fired him for cause, Boyd says, reading from a document. You listed the cause as gross negligence and destruction of property. By firing him for cause, you denied him his severance package. Is that correct? Yes, Vance says, his voice tight. It's company policy. And his pension? Boyd asks. He forfeited it upon termination for misconduct, Vance replies. Read the contract. I have read the contract, Boyd says. And I have also watched the video. That was not negligence. That was a medical emergency induced by unsafe working conditions mandated by your management. Therefore, the termination was wrongful. There was no cause. Boyd picks up a calculator. The clicking of the keys is the only sound in the room. 28 years of service, Boyd mutters as he types. A severance package of 2 weeks' pay for every year worked, plus the pension he contributed to, plus the unpaid overtime for the double shifts you forced him to work. Boyd hits the equals button. He writes a number on a piece of paper and circles it. Mr. Vance, you came here asking for $50,000 for a fake rug. You wanted to squeeze blood from a stone. But you forgot one thing. When you squeeze a stone hard enough, sometimes it breaks your hand. Your Honor? Vance's lawyer stands up, panic in his eyes. We request a recess. We need to discuss a settlement. Sit down. Boyd barks. The authority in his voice makes the lawyer collapse back into his chair. There will be no recess. There will be no backroom deals. We are finishing this now. Boyd looks at Elias, who is looking up at the judge with a mixture of fear and hope. Mr. Thorne, do you know what the statutory penalty is in this state for wage theft and malicious wrongful termination? No, sir, Elias whispers. It is triple damages, Boyd says. He turns the piece of paper around so Vance can see the number. Mr. Vance, you tried to ruin this man for a stain on a rug that you bought for pennies. You stepped over his body to make a phone call. You thought because he held a mop, he didn't matter. You thought his dignity was the price of your efficiency. Boyd leans forward, his eyes burning. Today, efficiency is going to cost you. Judge Boyd holds up the piece of paper with the circled number. He speaks clearly, ensuring every syllable is recorded by the court stenographer. Based on the evidence presented, specifically the video documentation of unsafe working conditions and the clear violation of state labor contracts, I am calculating the damages as follows. Boyd looks at Elias, then back to Vance. For 28 years of service, denied severance, $35,000. For the estimated value of the pension benefits, you illegally voided $120,000. For unpaid overtime, calculated at triple damages due to malice, $12,000. Vance rolls his eyes, reaching into his inner jacket pocket. He pulls out a sleek leather checkbook and a gold fountain pen. Fine, Vance interrupts, clicking the pen cap off. That's what? $167,000? I spend more than that on catering for the holiday party. If I write the check now, can we leave? This theater is becoming tiresome. The audacity of the gesture sends a ripple of shock through the gallery. Even Vance's lawyer looks horrified, whispering frantically for his client to put the pen away. But Vance ignores him. He is used to buying his way out of problems. He scribbles a signature with a flourish and rips the check out. Here, Vance says, extending the check toward the bailiff. Give it to him. Let's go. Judge Boyd does not blink. He does not look at the check. He looks at the bailiff. Officer, if he moves toward the exit, arrest him for contempt. Vance freezes, his hand still extended, holding the check. Arrest me? For paying the judgment? Sit down, Boyd roars. The sound is so sudden and powerful that Vance actually flinches, dropping the check on the floor. It flutters uselessly onto the dirty tile, landing near Elias's worn-out boots. You think this is a transaction? Boyd asks, his voice dropping back to that terrifying, low register. You think you are at a drive-through window? You do not dictate the terms of my court. You do not throw money at a man you tried to destroy and walk away. Boyd leans over the bench, his eyes locking onto Vance's soul. I haven't finished the math, Mr. Vance. That $167,000 was just what you stole from his paycheck. Now, we are going to talk about what you tried to steal from the court. Boyd picks up the glossy photo of the fake rug again. You filed a sworn affidavit under penalty of perjury. You claimed this rug was worth $50,000. You used that lie to file a lawsuit to intimidate a witness and silence a former employee. That is not just a lie, Mr. Vance. That is a felony. It is called malicious prosecution and insurance fraud. Vance's face drains of color for the first time. The gold pen slips from his fingers and rolls across the table. Fraud? Vance stammers. I told you, I didn't know. My interior designer handled it. You signed the affidavit. Boyd counters instantly. Your signature, your responsibility. In the corporate world, isn't that how it works? The CEO is responsible for the final sign-off. Vance looks at his lawyer. Do something. The lawyer stands up, looking defeated. Your Honor, my client withdraws the affidavit. We plead ignorance regarding the provenance of the rug. Denied, Boyd says. You don't get to withdraw the lie after you've been caught. Boyd turns his attention back to the financial judgment. For the act of filing a frivolous and malicious lawsuit, I am awarding the defendant punitive damages. Punitive damages are designed to punish, Mr. Vance. They are designed to hurt, and since you just announced to the court that $160,000 is catering money to you, I need to find a number that you will actually feel. Boyd writes another number on his pad, $2 million. What? Vance screams, jumping to his feet. That's extortion. You can't do that. I just did, Boyd says calmly. $2 million in punitive damages for emotional distress, defamation of character, and abuse of the legal system. This money will be paid to Mr. Thorne immediately. But that's not fair, Vance sputters. Fair? Boyd asks, raising an eyebrow. Fair is paying a man for his work. Fair is helping a human being who collapses at your feet. You don't want fair, Mr. Vance. You want special treatment. And today, I am giving you special treatment. Boyd turns to the bailiff. Officer, take Mr. Vance into custody. The bailiff unhooks handcuffs from his belt. The metallic click echoes in the silent room. Custody? Vance shrieks, backing away. For what? I can pay the $2 million. I'll wire it right now. Don't touch me. You are being remanded into custody for 48 hours for direct criminal contempt of court, Boyd announces, for your behavior, for your interruption of these proceedings, and for your attempt to turn this courtroom into a marketplace. Vance's lawyer tries to intervene. Your Honor, please. A fine is sufficient. My client is a flight risk? Absolutely not. He's a public figure. He is a man who thinks he is above the law, Boyd says. And for the next 2 days, he is going to learn that he isn't. He will sit in a cell that is 6 feet by 8 feet. He will eat a sandwich that costs $2. And he will wait while the district attorney decides whether to file charges for the perjury regarding the rug. The bailiff grabs Vance's arm. The CEO tries to pull away, his eyes wide with genuine terror. You can't do this. Do you know who I am? I know senators. I know the mayor. I know the law, Boyd says simply, as the bailiff spins Vance around and snaps the handcuffs onto his wrists. Wrists that moments ago displayed a $250,000 watch. Elias Thorne sits quietly. He looks at the check on the floor. He looks at the man being led away. Mr. Thorne, Boyd says gently. Elias looks up, tears streaming down his face again. But these are different tears. Sir, don't pick up that check, Boyd says. Ilias pose. Why, sir? Because, Boyd says, a small, grim smile appearing. That check is from his personal account. And where he is going, he won't be able to authorize the transfer. We will garnish his corporate wages directly. You'll get a cashier's check from the court on Monday. It will be clean money. Vance is dragged toward the side door, shouting threats, his dignity stripping away with every step. The heavy door slams shut, cutting off his voice. The courtroom is silent again, but the air feels lighter, cleaner. Judge Boyd looks at the empty defendant's chair, then back to Elias. We have handled the money, Mr. Thorne, and we have handled the arrogant man, but we haven't handled the justice. Not yet. Boyd opens the final file on his desk. Because money pays the bills, Mr. Thorne, but it doesn't heal the wound. And Mr. Vance, he still owes you an apology. And I have a very specific idea of how he is going to deliver it. 48 hours later, the heavy oak doors of the courtroom swing open. The gallery is packed. Word has spread. Everyone wants to see the king who was dethroned. Sterling Vance walks in, but he is not the same man who strutted in 2 days ago. The Brioni suit is wrinkled and stained with sweat. His tie is gone. The platinum signet ring is missing, currently sitting in an evidence bag. His face is unshaven, gray, and hollow. He walks with a slight limp, not from injury, but from the exhaustion of sleeping on a concrete slab. He doesn't look at the gallery. He keeps his eyes on the floor. He takes his seat at the defendant's table. His lawyer slides a glass of water toward him. Vance grabs it with shaking hands and drinks it in one desperate gulp. Judge Boyd enters. The room stands. Vance stands, too quickly, instinctively. He has learned fear. Be seated, Boyd says. Boyd looks at Vance for a long moment, studying the transformation. Welcome back, Mr. Vance. I trust your accommodations were educational? Vance clears his throat. His voice is raspy. It was hell, Your Honor. It was hell. The noise, the smell. I didn't sleep. The food was inedible. Hell, Boyd repeats. You spent 48 hours in a secure facility with 3 meals a day and a roof over your head. You call that hell. Boyd points to Elias Thorne. Mr. Thorne spent 28 years living paycheck to paycheck, skipping meals so his wife could eat, working 16-hour days on his knees until his body broke. And he did it without complaining. He did it with dignity. You lasted 2 days, and you look like you have been to war. Vance looks down at his hands. He has no retort this time. The arrogance has been starved out of him. Your lawyer has informed me that the district attorney is proceeding with felony charges for the insurance fraud. Boyd continues. That is a separate matter. You will face a jury for that. But today, we are here to conclude the civil matter of Vance versus Thorne and the countersuit. Boyd leans forward. I have already awarded the monetary damages. $2,167,000. The wire transfer was confirmed this morning. Mr. Thorne's wife will receive the best care in the country starting today. Elias sobs quietly into his hands. It is the sound of a burden being lifted, a sound of pure relief. But, Boyd says, his voice hardening, money is easy for you, Mr. Vance. Even after the fine, you will still be rich. You will still go back to your penthouse. You will still have drivers and chefs. The money hurts your bank account, but it doesn't fix you. And this court, we are in the business of fixing things. Vance looks up, wary. What else do you want? I want you to understand the value of a stain, Boyd says cryptically. Boyd opens a new document. I am sentencing you to 500 hours of community service. Vance breathes a sigh of relief. Community service? Fine, I can do that. I'll sit on a board. I'll organize a charity gala. I can raise millions for... No, Boyd interrupts. You are not listening. You do not get to be a CEO for your community service. You do not get to wear a tuxedo and drink champagne for charity. Boyd smiles, but there is no humor in it. I have spoken with the administration of the St. Jude Oncology Center, the hospital where Martha Thorne is receiving her chemotherapy. They are understaffed. They are in desperate need of custodial support. Vance freezes. His eyes widen. Custodial support? Janitorial services, Boyd clarifies. For the next 500 hours, you are not Sterling Vance, the CEO. You are the night janitor. You will report to the oncology ward at 8 p.m. You will finish at 4 a.m. You will mop the floors. You will empty the trash. You will clean the restrooms used by patients who are fighting for their lives. No, Vance whispers. You can't. I can't do that. I don't know how to. You will learn, Boyd snaps. Just like Mr. Thorne learned. And here is the condition, Mr. Vance. If you miss one shift, if you complain once, if you treat any member of that staff with disrespect, I will revoke your bail on the felony fraud charge, and you will await your trial in that 6x8 cell. Do you understand? Vance looks at his hands, hands that have never held anything heavier than a pen. He looks at Elias, whose hands are ruined from labor. I understand, Vance says, his voice breaking. Good, Boyd says. But before you start your new job, there is one last thing you need to do. Something you refused to do 2 days ago. Boyd gestures to the open space between the tables. Stand up, Mr. Vance, and look at the man you stepped over. Vance stands slowly. He turns to face Elias. Elias stands too, clutching his hat, looking not with anger, but with a strange, quiet pity. 2 days ago, you said he was a nobody. Boyd's voice echoes from the bench. You said he should have gone to business school. Tell him now, Mr. Vance. Look him in the eye and tell him what you see. Vance looks at Elias, really looks at him for the first time. He sees the frayed sweater. He sees the swollen knuckles. He sees the eyes of a man who has endured things Vance cannot even imagine. Vance opens his mouth, but the words get stuck. His lip quivers. The shame, finally, is real. I didn't see you, Vance whispers. The words are barely audible. Speak up, Boyd commands from the bench. I didn't see you, Vance says, louder this time, his voice cracking. I looked at you every day for 5 years, and I didn't see you. I saw a uniform. I saw a tool. I didn't see the man inside it. Vance takes a breath, his shoulders sagging under the weight of his own realization. I thought I was important because of what I built, but I didn't build it alone. You were there, every morning, every night. And when you fell, when you needed help, I walked away. Vance wipes a tear from his own cheek, a tear of genuine remorse, or perhaps the sheer, overwhelming pressure of the moment. I am sorry, Mr. Thorne. I am sorry for the rug. I am sorry for the job. But mostly, I am sorry that I made you feel like you were nothing. You are not nothing. You are a better man than I am. The courtroom is silent. Elias Thorne looks at the man who ruined his life, the man who is now standing before him, broken and humbled. Elias slowly reaches into his pocket and pulls out the crumpled tissue he had been using to dry his eyes. He steps forward. The bailiff tenses, ready to intervene, but Judge Boyd holds up a hand. Let him speak. Elias hands the tissue to Vance. Take it, Elias says softly. You look like you need it more than me right now. Vance stares at the tissue, then at Elias's calloused hand. He takes it. Mr. Vance, Elias says, his voice steady for the first time. I don't want your pity. And I don't hate you. Hate takes too much energy, and I have none left. But I want you to know something. Elias points to the door. That building, that tower with your name on it, I loved that place. I polished the brass on the doors until my fingers bled because I wanted it to look beautiful for you. I vacuumed the boardroom in silence so you could make your big deals. I emptied the shredder so your secrets stayed safe. I wasn't just cleaning, Mr. Vance. I was caring for it. Elias pauses, straightening his back. The stoop seems to disappear. You said I should have gone to business school. Maybe. But business school didn't teach you how to help a man who is down. My father taught me that, and he was a janitor too. Elias looks Vance dead in the eye. My name is Elias, not the janitor, not the help. Elias. I hope you remember it when you pick up that mop tonight, because that mop is heavy, and the floors, they are hard. Vance nods, tears freely flowing now. I will remember. I promise. Elias. Judge Boyd watches the exchange, his face softening just a fraction. This is the justice he wanted. Not the money, though the money matters, but the restoration of humanity. Mr. Vance, Boyd says. Vance turns to the judge. You have a long road ahead of you. 500 hours is a long time. The staff at the oncology center works 12-hour shifts. They see pain and death every day. they see miracles too. You are going to see things that will change you if you let them. I will, Your Honor, Vance says. I want to change. Good, Boyd says. Because if you come back into this courtroom as the man who stepped over a body, I will put you away for a very long time. But if you come back as the man I see right now, the man who is finally learning to see others, then maybe there is hope for you yet. Boyd picks up his gavel. It feels heavy in his hand, a symbol of the weight he carries. Mr. Thorne, Boyd says. Yes, Your Honor. You are a rich man now, Boyd says. $2 million. You can buy a lot of things. You can buy a house. You can buy a car. But you cannot buy what you just displayed here today. Class. You have class, Mr. Thorne. And that is something Mr. Vance is just starting to earn. Elias smiles. It is a tired smile, but it reaches his eyes. Thank you, Judge. Case dismissed, Boyd announces. The gavel strikes the sound block. The sharp crack echoes through the room, signaling the end of the legal battle, but the beginning of a new life for both men. Vance turns to leave. He doesn't wait for his lawyer. He walks toward the door, not with the strut of a king, but with the humble gait of a man who has work to do. He stops at the exit, looks back at Elias one last time, nods respectfully, and walks out to face his punishment. Elias stands there for a moment, letting the reality sink in. He is no longer the invisible janitor. He is Elias Thorne, husband, millionaire, survivor. The gallery bursts into applause. It isn't polite clapping. It is a roar of approval. People stand up. Strangers reach out to shake Elias's hand as he walks down the aisle. Judge Boyd gathers his files. He watches Elias leave, surrounded by support. He watches the empty chair where Vance sat. He takes a deep breath and closes the thick black binder. Another case closed. Another lesson taught. But the story isn't quite over. Because justice doesn't end when the gavel falls. Justice is what happens next. 6 months later, the Vance Global Technologies building towers over the city's skyline, a monument to glass and steel. But inside, something has changed. The air is different. The fear is gone. In the lobby, a plaque has been installed near the elevators. It is made of polished brass, simple but elegant. It reads, "Dedicated to the hardworking men and women who keep this building standing. We see you." It is 8 p.m. A man enters the oncology ward of St. Jude Hospital. He is wearing blue coveralls. His name tag says Sterling. He pushes a heavy mop bucket. He doesn't have a security entourage. He doesn't have an $8,000 suit. He has a pair of comfortable work boots and calloused hands. Sterling Vance stops at room 402. He knocks gently. "Come in," a weak voice says. Vance opens the door. Inside, a woman is resting in the bed, hooked up to an IV drip. Sitting next to her, holding her hand, is Elias Thorne. "Hey, Sterling," Elias says, smiling. "Good evening, Elias." "Mrs. Thorne," Vance says softly. "How is the treatment going?" "Better," Martha Thorne whispers. The doctor says, "The new meds are working. The tumor is shrinking." Vance nods, a look of genuine relief washing over his face. That is the best news I've heard all week." He dips the mop into the bucket and starts cleaning the floor near the bed. He moves with a rhythm now, a practiced efficiency. He knows how to wring the mop just right so it doesn't leave streaks. He knows how to clean the corners without bumping the medical equipment. "You missed a spot," Elias teases gently. Vance chuckles. "I'll get it. Don't worry, boss." They laugh. It is a warm sound in a sterile room. Vance finishes the room and leans on the mop handle. "You know, Elias, I was thinking, the hospital needs a new wing, a recovery garden for the patients, something with real grass, sunlight, fresh air." "That sounds expensive," Elias says. "It is," Vance agrees. "About $5 million. I'm selling the yacht and the summer house in the Hamptons." Elias raises an eyebrow. "You're selling the toys?" "I don't need them," Vance says simply. "I need this. I need to know that when I leave here, I left something real behind. Something that helps people." Elias nods slowly. "That's a good legacy, Sterling. A real legacy." Vance checks the clock on the wall. "It's 8:30. I better get moving. The pediatric ward is next. The kids, they like it when I make the mop dance." Vance waves goodbye and pushes his bucket into the hallway. He whistles a tune as he walks away, a man who has lost his fortune but found his soul. Back in Judge Boyd's chambers, the judge sits at his desk. It is late. The courthouse is empty. He pulls a newspaper clipping from a folder marked Cases That Matter. The headline reads, Former Tech CEO Trades Boardroom for Broom Closet, The Redemption of Sterling Vance. Boyd reads the article. It talks about Vance's community service, about the donations, about the way he now greets every employee by name. It talks about Elias Thorne, who used his settlement money to start a scholarship fund for the children of service workers. Boyd smiles. He takes a pen and writes a single note in the margin of the clipping. Justice isn't just about the fall. It's about the rise. He closes the folder and places it in the filing cabinet. He turns off the desk lamp. The room plunges into darkness, illuminated only by the city lights outside. Judge Boyd walks to the window. He looks out at the city, a city full of CEOs and janitors, rich and poor, powerful and invisible. He knows there will always be more cases, more arrogance, more cruelty. But for tonight, justice has been served. He picks up his briefcase and walks to the door. He pauses, looking back at the empty bench, at the gavel resting silently on its block. "See you tomorrow," he whispers to the empty room. The screen fades to black.